So, we're going to talk today about positive recovery. What is that? Well, quite simply, it's a comprehensive, balanced, and extended treatment for addictions. And if you're like me, you're probably thinking, ugh, I've heard this before. But don't worry, positive recovery is new. It's actually the world's first curriculum that combines the new scientific study of happiness, also known as positive psychology, combined with existing and traditional approaches into something you've never seen before. Before I go any further, introductions are in order. That's me. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Jason Powers. I'm the Chief Medical Officer of RightStep and Promises Austin. Why would I design a new approach to treating addiction? After all, we've made a ton of progress. In fact, decades of recent research demonstrate unequivocally that addiction is a chronic brain disease. We also know that treatment is generally effective, with relapse rates for addiction similar to those of other well-characterized chronic diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, and asthma. We know a lot about how it develops and where it exerts most of its effects, which is the pleasure center, where it causes chronic changes, and for good reason. Drugs feel pretty darn good, especially at first, and they're powerful. But people don't only use to increase pleasure. They also use to lessen pain, like the pain that comes with being sad. I mean, let's face it, being a human being can be pretty tough even under the best of circumstances. There is work stress, home stress, and there are things to worry about, such as all the drugs they're feeding our livestock, not knowing which way to go, the US deficit, global warming, snakes, spiders, and worst of all, trying to keep up with the Kardashians. Escaping oneself can actually be a good thing under the right circumstances. Losing oneself and the sense of space and time can be beneficial. Think about athletes who are in the zone or musicians in the groove. These are healthy examples of flow. But if you try to get into that flow-like state just using drugs or processes, it's not the real thing. We also know addiction can develop when people try to form relationships. We need to connect with others. It's actually a psychological human need. An addiction can develop if you use or act out in order to fit in a certain group, or find a mate, or even stay together with said mate when things become hard. Another reason addiction develops is because people are searching for more meaning in their life. In fact, Carl Jung, noted therapist, and others agree how profound meaning is in the development of addiction. So we know addiction is a disease, treatments are generally effective, and we know why it develops. But we have not made enough progress. Relapse rates are just too high. So I came up with the idea to attack the gaps in the way addiction treatment is delivered today. First, it is too short. The way treatment is designed today is great if you have a crisis. Let's face it, treatment that's measured in days or weeks or months is not appropriate for a chronic disease like addiction, diabetes, or asthma. So Positive Recovery extends treatment by giving its graduates a book called a Positive Recovery Daily Intervention Guide, where every day is a positive intervention. And they also have access to the portal on positiverecovery.com, where they will find a community of like-minded people all pursuing the same ends. That way, they can extend treatment and continue to build positive habits and flourish in recovery. On the issue of relapse, too many of us treating addiction for too long have been too timid. How many people with diabetes, high blood pressure, or asthma always have 100% perfect control from the first time they're diagnosed? None. Like any chronic disease, expecting 100% perfect control in every patient is just not realistic. Avoiding triggers is important, like cues such as being around it, drug dealers, being around certain people, or Mexican food. Say it's important to avoid these triggers, but it's at least as important to plan to intervene early. That's why Positive Recovery not only has a relapse prevention plan, but also a mitigation plan. Like other chronic diseases, we know that the earlier you intervene should there be a relapse, the better the outcomes. Avoiding a relapse is a worthy endeavor and one which we include. But then again, if that's all you do, you miss out on opportunities to run towards something. You miss out on filling up your life with that which makes life most worthwhile. You miss out on optimal wellness. There are two complementary strategies for achieving optimal wellness. One, you can relieve what's negative in life, and two, you can strengthen what's positive. But most treatment approaches are unbalanced. They overemphasize identifying and eliminating the bad stuff, but they downplay happiness building. Eliminating depression doesn't make somebody happy, and curing anxiety doesn't teach someone hope or optimism. You can study gravity forever without learning how to fly. Now, the treatment system is not balanced. It's important to identify and eliminate problems. But if that's all you do, you're in a state of not hurting, not in pain. That's not a sustainable lifestyle. If you build happiness, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement, you will prevent a relapse and you will build positive habits, develop your character, and forge your destiny. We recognize that you need both approaches, but we have for too long ignored the good stuff. While sometimes bad stuff happens and we know that addiction is not a pretty disease and we know that things don't always happen for the best, but it's always possible to find the best in what happens. So positive recovery attacks the gaps head on. Now, where do we find human happiness? Is human happiness sex, drugs, and rock and roll? No, we know where that gets us. Is happiness found in money? Well, surprisingly, no. Once your needs are met, money has almost no effect on human happiness. Would you be surprised to learn that winning the lottery will not solve all your woes and won't cause everlasting happiness? As a matter of fact, when we compared people who did a gratitude journal versus people who won the lottery, we found surprising results that at 6 months, their happiness was equal. And at a year, the gratitude journal wins out every time. So we know it's not money. So where do we find human happiness? Most people think that happiness is possible once we're healthy, well-fed, loved, comfortable, knowledgeable, non-celibate, and prosperous. But you can have all these things and still be unhappy. There are those of us that live in third world countries that don't have a lot of those things and they're super happy. And there are many Americans who have those things and aren't very happy at all. That's why I love positive psychology. It studies what creates human happiness. And as complex as happiness is, there's an easy to remember acronym, PERMA, P-E-R-M-A, where P stands for positive emotions. But these, again, are not the positive emotions of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but rather the deeper pleasures. E stands for engagement or flow that we spoke about earlier with athletes in the zone and musicians in the groove. Flow is optimal human action. It's great if you're getting there the right way, but if you take drugs or use processes to escape yourself, that's not the same thing. Taking cheap shortcuts won't get you human happiness. R stands for relationships. Now, this one's pretty easy because by far the greatest predictor of happiness in the literature is intimate relationships. And I love this. People matter, objects don't. M stands for meaning. But the result of pursuing more meaning and purpose for most people is great. It's better physical and mental health, deeper and more supportive relationships, and longer life. Of course, let's not forget about happiness. Meaning is a huge contributor to our overall well-being. When your life is full of meaning, you feel better and more satisfied. A stands for achievement. What is achievement? It's not achievement for the sake of fame or fortune. It's the peace of mind that knowing you exerted your best effort in pursuing valuable goals. So positive recovery, what is it? It's a comprehensive, balanced, and extended approach to treating addiction. If you pursue happiness the wrong way and develop addiction, we're here to help. Life is not just about avoiding pain, not just about avoiding suffering. You don't have to keep running faster just to stand still. But we need your help. We need you to teach us who you are. What are your character strengths? What do you value? And what are your hopes and dreams? We're here to teach you how to prevent a relapse and pursue happiness the right way so you flourish in recovery.
Positive Recovery as a curriculum seeks to enhance and engage existing working modalities that we have seen over the course of years really work for clients. Takes those, enhances them, builds upon them with positive psychology, targeted interventions, looking at the science of well-being to take clients not just from suffering to baseline, but from baseline to flourishing.
How I see positive recovery changing treatment, instead of looking at what's wrong, when someone comes from the ground of being of their strengths, that's their foundation instead of their character defect being their foundation.
Positive recovery, simply going through the training and incorporating the interventions into the personal lives of staff, increases the happiness, the flourishing, and therefore the effectiveness of the staff providing the service. Really giving participants in positive recovery a lot of different tools to access their own happiness, to access their own ability to thrive.
We start to engage the clients in finding reasons why to be sober that really aren't fear-based, but really are meaningful and purposeful. And so I think it will lead to higher resilience or really better success rates because people will have a reason for, and other than just avoiding pain.
Abstinence is to recovery what thriving is to optimal health. If all you get is sober, you're missing out on the opportunity to thrive. And recovery includes sobriety, but is not limited to it. Recovery feels and looks like this. We know this is possible for you. Teach us who you are. Be honest with us. We're going to be transparent with you. We're on the same team. We're here to help you thrive. That's the Positive Recovery Way.